Hey guys, how are you doing? Today I'm analyzing OG.Moon's offlane void play. Before I start, I want you guys all to be aware of something. Offlane is probably Dota's most complex lane. You could be 1 versus 1, 1 versus 2, or even 1 versus 3. You could be playing against greedy heroes or not. So while everything I say here is relevant to the extent of my knowledge, you guys have to be aware that this lane has a lot of variants. So the first thing I want to point out is how he actually manages to turn something that looks very hard, 1 versus 1 lane as a melee hero against Klinks, using the fog. Just pay attention, he shows a little bit into the lane and then just hides in the fog, as if he's afraid of getting harassed and just wants to sap a little bit of experience. So that actually baits Klinks into going after him and harassing. But that's exactly what he wanted. He was just waiting for Klinks to come, and then he just deals a lot of damage to the Klinks that needs to retreat ASAP. Just a few moments later, he does the exact same thing, just luring the Klinks and then wrecking the shit out of him. So in less than 1 minute in the lane, he actually manages to take more than half of Klink's HP. So that's very good play coming by Moo. He ends up dying by playing over aggressive, even though they actually get the Klink skill. And when he comes back, he's a little bit afraid of Spirit Breaker's charge, so he hides in the fog. Notice that he doesn't leave the fog until he sees Spirit Breaker charging another lane. And then just pay a lot of attention into how he plays this. So he stays in the fog, and when he sees that a creep is about to die, he leaves the fog. First he draws the creep aggro, then he gets the last hit, and then he goes back into the fog. So by this simple thing he's doing, he's actually managing a lot of stuff. He's reducing the chance of the Spirit Breaker charge, he is avoiding harass because since he's in the fog, Klinks can't attack him. He's also getting experience and maximizing his last hitting. So that's just top tier play coming from him. Another thing that any good Dota player needs to know is how to attack and move at the same time. Every attack on Dota has the animation until the damage is done and then a backswing. This backswing can be cancelled without affecting any damage that is going to be dealt by that hero. So if you actually get the hang of each backswing, you can actually maximize your damage when you're chasing someone. See that when Moo starts attacking the Winter Wyvern, he's already trying to predict where he's going. So he's already clicking where he's going to move next. And since he actually gets a Lucky Bash, he just further increases his advantage over the Winter Wyvern and almost gets a solo kill by just attack moving correctly. Okay, so I don't want to go too deep into this subject because this has the material for an entire video. Actually, I have a video on this in my Brazilian channel. Maybe I can actually make a video for this channel as well. But I'm going to talk about PRD. Well, for the average player, what PRD means is that when a skill has 15% chance of something happening, it's actually saying that it has 50% of that thing happening on average. Well, of course, when that skill uses PRD, most bashes and procs like Maelstrom or Evasion now uses PRD as well. A lot of stuff uses PRD. What is actually happening is, if you are using Faceless Void, for instance, and you have level 2 bash, as we're going to see in the clip, the first attack that you make won't have 15% chance of a bash. It will have way less. For each attack that you make without a bash actually proccing, you're further increasing the chance of that bash actually occurring. So the first bash could have like, I don't know, 6%. Then every next attack is going to have an increment chance of that happening until it's impossible for a bash not to happen. And this mechanic is used in Dota to avoid a lot of occurrences at the same time. So you don't want 4 bashes happening in a row and you don't want 15 attacks without a bash proccing. So this type of mechanic is used to make Dota more predictable in a way, or not too unpredictable. Call it whatever you want to call. So what I'm going to talk about here is this. I'm not sure if Moo is doing this, if he's actually using this on purpose, but since he's a very high MMR player, I'm going to predict yes. So just look at this clip. He's just less hitting. He actually attacks 6 times without a bash proccing. Actually 5 times. And then at the 5th attack, he just decides to go aggressive on Clinks. And he gets a bash in the first attack. And that's because he probably knew that he made lots of attacks where a bash didn't proc. And he had a really high chance of the next one, or maybe the one after the next one, proccing. And that's a really good way of actually using PRD in his advantage. He actually does a lot of damage to the Clinks only because he's paying attention to these details. In this other clip, you can see that he is trying to harass the Clinks because he knows that he didn't bash for a long time. He actually can't because of the creep wave going to attack him. So he just goes back to farm, and the first attack that he actually uses is a bash. So pretty cool stuff coming from him. Now let's talk a little bit about map awareness. Usually it's pretty hard for an offlaner to be actually pushing or even taking a tier 2 tower in 9 minutes. In this game though, he actually manages to do it, to almost do it. Actually takes more than half of the tier 2 HP, and that is because he's actually he's not even looking it into the game. He can see in the minimap that they have one hero in the mid lane and they have 3 heroes fighting in the bottom lane. So he's actually playing Void, a hero that is very slippery. He still has his chrono, and even if they commit several TPs in the same tower, he knows that he's going to escape. So he just keeps pressing his advantage. And well, one could say that the right move would be to actually TP in the bottom lane and help his team, since he had Chronosphere off cooldown. And I actually agree with that statement, but he didn't have a TP on him. So he had 2 choices: actually walk into the secret shop and get a TP and maybe just getting super late into that fight and be completely ineffective, or he could fully commit into the tier 2. So that's a sign of a good player. Even though he committed a mistake, arguably a mistake because he didn't TP to help his team, he actually made a lot of impact doing something else. And that I think is something very important. At this particular time, committing was the best of the worst situation possible. And this is what I wanted to talk about his gameplay in this video. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks guys.